Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony. Snow White's stepmother, the queen, was very jealous of her beauty. Every day, the queen would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day, the mirror would reply, "You are, my queen." But one day, the mirror said, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." The queen was furious and decided to get rid of Snow White. She ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and never bring her back. The huntsman, feeling sorry for Snow White, let her go and told her to run far away. Snow White ran deep into the forest and found a small cottage. She knocked on the door, but no one answered, so she went inside. The cottage was tiny and had 7 little beds, 7 little chairs, and 7 little plates. Tired from running, Snow White lay down on the beds and fell fast asleep. When the owners of the cottage returned, they found Snow White asleep. They were 7 dwarfs named Dark, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey. They listened to Snow White's story and invited her to stay with them. Snow White brought joy and laughter to the dwarfs' lives. She cooked, cleaned, and sang beautiful songs. The dwarfs warned her to be careful and never open the door to strangers. Meanwhile, the queen discovered Snow White was still alive. Disguised as an old woman, she made a poisoned apple and went to the dwarf's cottage. Snow White, being kind, opened the door and accepted the apple. As soon as she took a bite, she fell into a deep sleep. When the dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White lying still and pale. They were heartbroken and placed her in a glass coffin in the forest, watching over her day and night. One day, a handsome prince who had heard of Snow White's beauty came to the forest. He saw her in the glass coffin and was so moved that he kissed her gently. Magically, Snow White awoke from her deep sleep. The prince and Snow White looked at each other with love and joy. The dwarfs cheered and danced with happiness. Snow White thanked the dwarfs for their kindness and care. Snow White and the prince invited the dwarfs to live in the castle, where they all lived happily ever after, filled with joy, friendship, and love.